Peppa Pig's house always seemed like a safe place, warm and cozy. But when night falls, even the most familiar streets become strange and frightening. Peppa and her family are returning home after visiting Granny and Grandpa Pig. But something goes wrong. Daddy Pig's car suddenly breaks down in the middle of a dark road. The headlights go out, leaving the family in complete darkness. Daddy Pig tries to start the car, but it won't start. Strange sounds come from the forest next to the road. Mummy Pig suggests walking to the nearest house. The family gets out of the car and starts walking down the dark road. George notices that the road looks different. Familiar signs have disappeared, replaced by strange symbols. Peppa turns around and sees that the car has vanished. In its place stands an old abandoned bus with broken windows. The family continues walking, but the road leads them further from home. Houses they've never seen before appear around them. Susie Sheep comes out of one of the houses, but she looks strange. Her eyes glow in the dark and her smile seems unnatural. Susie silently points to a path leading into the forest. The family reluctantly follows her, not understanding what's happening. In the forest, they meet Freddy Fox and Danny Dog. But their friends also behave strangely, as if they don't recognize the family. Labubu appears from behind a large tree. His crimson eyes burn in the darkness, and his sinister smile promises trouble. Labubu starts playing hide-and-seek with the family. Every time they think they've found the exit, he moves them to another place. The road home disappears every time they turn around. Labubu laughs, watching their confusion. Pedro Pony appears in the clearing and offers to help. But when the family approaches, they see it's not the real Pedro. Emily Elephant and her mummy also appear in the forest. They point in different directions, confusing the family. Labubu creates illusions of familiar places. The family sees their house, but when they get closer, it turns into an abandoned hut. George starts crying and his tears turn into glowing drops. Labubu collects them, becoming even stronger. Mummy Pig realizes they're trapped by Labubu. She hugs the children tightly, trying to protect them with her love. The family holds hands and starts singing a lullaby. Their unity creates a bright light that scares Labubu away. Labubu retreats into the shadows, but his eyes continue watching the family. The road home finally appears before them. The family runs down the road without looking back. They reach their house and quickly go inside. But when Peppa looks out the window, she sees Labubu across the street. The park had always been Peppa's family's favorite place, green and safe. But no one suspected what dark secrets the new cleaner was hiding behind his friendly appearance. Sunny morning in the town, Peppa's family decides to go to the park for fun. Peppa runs excitedly to the swings. George drags his beloved Mr. Dinosaur behind him. Mummy and Daddy Pig sit comfortably on the bench. Everything looks perfectly normal and peaceful. Suddenly, a large green figure with a broom appears. The new park cleaner arrives mysteriously. Shrek slowly sweeps the paths with care. His red eyes watch everyone carefully and suspiciously. Children play happily, not noticing the strange stare. Parents read their newspapers quietly. Shrek approaches closer to the playground area. Leaves turn black under his heavy feet. Peppa swings higher and higher joyfully. George builds elaborate sand castles with concentration. The cleaner begins sweeping around the sandbox. Sand becomes dark and sticky mysteriously. George tries to take sand, but hands stick firmly. He cannot break free at all. Peppa calls loudly for parents to help. Mummy and Daddy run over quickly. Shrek continues sweeping very calmly. His sinister smile grows wider and wider. Parents try desperately to help George. The sand holds him tighter than before. Other children in park stick to toys. Nobody can leave this place anymore. Shrek sweeps much faster now. The entire park covers with dark, magical dust. Families try frantically to leave. The gates are locked by invisible supernatural force. The cleaner laughs with frightening sound. His broom glows with eerie green light. Peppa finally understands the real danger. She tries desperately to warn everyone around. Shrek approaches each family slowly. All children become strangely quiet and obedient. Parents don't notice the changes. They think children are simply tired from playing. Sun sets slowly. Nobody leaves. They all stay in park forever and ever. Shrek disappears into dark shadows. The park looks perfectly clean and innocent again. New unsuspecting families arrive tomorrow. They don't know about the terrible danger waiting. Shrek appears again with his broom ready. The horrifying cycle of terror continues endlessly forever. Peppa Pig's house always seemed like a safe place, warm and cozy. But today something had changed within these familiar walls. Peppa was playing in her room when she heard a strange scratching sound. The noise came from under her bed like someone sharpening claws. George sat in the living room with his favorite dinosaur toy. Suddenly, the toy turned its head toward the window by itself. A pink shadow with big ears flashed past the window. Labubu was watching the house from the garden's darkness. Mummy Pig was cooking dinner when the pots began to tremble. Something invisible was walking around the kitchen beside her. Daddy Pig was reading his newspaper when letters started to blur. They formed into one word, labubu. Peppa came downstairs and saw wet footprints on the floor. The tracks led from the front door to the attic. The family gathered in the living room, but nobody could explain the strange events. The air became cold and heavy. Labubu appeared in the doorway, smiling his eerie smile. His eyes glowed in the room's dim light. He didn't speak, just stared at each family member. Time seemed to stop in that moment. Peppa tried to approach the strange creature, but her legs wouldn't obey. Labubu slowly shook his head. George hid behind the sofa, clutching his dinosaur tightly. The toy suddenly felt ice cold to touch. Mummy and Daddy Pig couldn't move, as if they were under a spell. Labubu walked around the room in circles. The creature stopped before the family portrait on the wall. His reflection appeared in the photograph. Labubu reached out toward Peppa but didn't touch her. Instead, he pointed at the mirror in the hallway. The mirror reflected not their home, but a dark forest. Labubu slowly backed toward the reflection. He vanished into the mirror forest, but his laughter echoed through the house. The sound grew fainter and fainter. The family could move again, but something had changed forever. Fear had settled in their home. Every night, shadows flickered in the mirrors. Labubu waited for his moment in the reflected world. Peppa no longer played alone in her room. She knew Labubu was always watching. The house on the hill looked the same as before, but inside lived a secret. Labubu had become part of this place, and now everyone who looks into the house's mirrors might see his smile. Labubu waits for new friends in his dark world. A sunny day seemed perfectly ordinary and peaceful. George was riding his bright red bicycle along the familiar path near home. The wheels began to squeak loudly and unnaturally. The sound echoed through the empty street ominously, warning of something sinister. A strange yellow figure appeared from around the corner. It was Labubu with a frightening smile and glowing symbols in his eyes. Labubu approached without making any sound. His paws left yellow smoking traces on the dark asphalt below. George tried desperately to ride away, but the pedals spun by themselves. The bicycle wouldn't obey his commands anymore. Labubu extended his dark paw and whispered incomprehensible words. They sent a terrible chill down the spine. The sky darkened rapidly, though it was still morning. Dark clouds gathered ominously above them both. Peppa looked out the window and saw her brother with a stranger. Something about the scene was deeply frightening. She ran quickly to Daddy Pig, but when they returned, George had completely vanished. Only the bicycle remained. Labubu stood nearby and stared directly at the house. His yellow eyes glowed much brighter than before. Daddy Pig ran out frantically to search for his son. Labubu dissolved into thin air, leaving yellow smoke. George was found sitting in the basement. He sat there quietly, repeating strange, incomprehensible words. Mummy Pig tried to talk to him, but he looked right through her. Mysterious symbols reflected in his eyes. Dr. Brown Bear understood nothing at all. George was perfectly healthy, but behaved very strangely. At night, George went slowly to the window. Labubu waited there patiently, beckoning into the darkness. Peppa followed carefully as her brother opened the door. Labubu walked ahead into the night. They reached an old abandoned house. Labubu disappeared mysteriously inside the dark building. Strange, eerie sounds came from the house. George stepped across the threshold and vanished inside. Peppa ran for help, but the house was completely empty. A yellow medallion lay on the floor. George sat at home as if nothing had happened, but now he wore the mysterious medallion. Every night, Labubu appears under the window. He stands there and waits for his friend. George no longer plays with toys. He only stares out the window and whispers strange words. The family doesn't know what to do anymore. George remained with them, but changed forever. Madame Gazelle's school always seemed like a place of joy and fun. But every year, one student disappeared forever, and no one dared to speak about it aloud. Today was a special day, the day of choice. Madame Gazelle stands before the class with a silver urn in her hands. The tradition had to continue. Children sit in a circle, their eyes full of fear. Everyone knew what this urn meant. Peppa, Susie, Pedro, Danny, and Emily trembled in their seats. One of them wouldn't return. Home. Madame Gazelle slowly opens the urn and takes out a silver paper. The name was already written in advance. She unfolds the paper and reads the name. The choice fell on the most innocent. Peppa rises from her seat. Her face turns pale. Her friends turn away in horror. In the corner of the classroom appears the silver shadow of Labubu. He had been waiting for this moment all year. Madame Gazelle takes Peppa by the hand and leads her to the door. No one dares to interfere. They walk down the long corridor to the school basement. Each step echoes in the silence. Labubu follows them, his silver eyes glowing in the darkness. He becomes bigger and scarier. In the basement stands an ancient altar covered with silver cloth. Here all the previous children disappeared. Peppa looks back, but the door is already locked. There was no way back anymore. Labubu approaches the altar. His form becomes enormous. The ritual is about to begin. Madame Gazelle speaks ancient words in an unknown language. The air fills with silver fog. Peppa tries to run away, but her legs don't obey. Labubu's magic was too strong. Silver fog envelops the girl completely. Her screams become quieter and quieter. Labubu extends his silver paws toward Peppa. The sacrifice is almost complete. The fog dissipates, and Peppa disappears without a trace. Labubu smiles contentedly. Madame Gazelle returns to the classroom. The lesson continues as if nothing happened. Children sit silently, knowing that Peppa is no more. No one asks questions. In the corner of the classroom, Labubu becomes invisible. He will wait for the next year. Peppa's parents come to pick up their daughter after school. Madame Gazelle says she left early. At home, the family waits for Peppa until late at night, but she will never return. Peppa and George were playing in the living room when suddenly all the toys began to move on their own. George dropped his dinosaur and it shattered into pieces. Peppa laughed, but George cried. His tears turned black like tar. Frightened, Peppa ran to her room. The house grew cold and dark. Mirrors showed strange shadows, and in Peppa's bedroom mirror appeared a silhouette with huge eyes, Labubu. She felt breathing on her neck. George sat in the living room, surrounded by dark figures. Labubu whispered into his ear with invisible lips. In the kitchen, Mummy Pig found all the food spoiled and strange symbols crawling on the walls. Sinister laughter echoed everywhere. Daddy Pig tried to switch on the lights, but the bulbs burst one by one. Footsteps sounded in the darkness, yet no one was there. Labubu grew stronger. When Peppa left her room, George had vanished, leaving only black footprints. In the bathroom, taps ran with black water, and the mirror cracked, revealing red eyes. The family gathered in the living room, but George was missing. A dark figure sat on the sofa. Labubu revealed his true face. Susie Sheep came to visit but saw the house sealed from within. She knocked, but no one answered. Freddie Fox and Danny Dog searched for their friends and found the house abandoned, the grass around it blackened. Inside, Labubu controlled the family like puppets. Their eyes were empty. Peppa tried to escape, but every door led to the same room. Labubu laughed and showed her George, standing motionless with a hollow stare. Madame Gazelle arrived, worried why the children hadn't come to school. The house was shrouded in fog, the air trembling. Emily Elephant and her mummy passed by, hearing children crying. Then silence. Granny and Grandpa Pig visited and found the house empty. Children's drawings crawled on the walls. At night, neighbors saw shadows flicker in the windows. Labubu danced with his new toys, the family forever trapped in his dark world. By morning, the house looked normal, but no one was inside. On the table lay a note from Peppa, the word labubu, written over and over in childish handwriting. Pedro Pony peeked through a window and saw silhouettes of the family at the table. When he waved, they turned toward him, empty sockets staring. Wendy Wolf heard children laughing from the basement. She found George's toys, but the laughter went on. Labubu watched from the attic, glowing eyes fixed on the town. He had already chosen his next family. In the final scene, the camera moved through the empty house. On the wall hung a family photo, but the faces were erased. Only Labubu smiled from the dark corner.